Imagine if you went from feeling fine every day to feeling amazing. How would your life be different? Everyone has the ability to feel amazing again and again. You just need the right tools to get there. If you're ready to feel amazing, stick around. Now, here's the host of the I'm Not Fine show with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens.
Welcome back, you guys, to another phenomenal show this week, to the I'm Not Fine show. Today, I have a phenomenal and amazing dear friend and guest and peer on the show with me, Miss Jayna Swan. And Jayna, I just want to welcome you to the show. I've been so excited to have this conversation with you because, well, you're just a phenomenal human being. So before we even dive into that, let me tell you a little bit about her because we are in for a ride. Seriously, guys, if you're not here to learn, you might want to go somewhere else because this is going to be super powerful. But Jayna Swan is a dynamic speaker, creative mindset mentor, specializing in advanced communication techniques for personal and professional growth. With over a decade of experience in mindset coaching, she guides female creators through transformative shifts in self-love and worthiness. Jayna, welcome to the show.
Oh, Lizzie, I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be amazing just because we've connected on so many different levels. We were in the same mastermind, and it's just been beautiful for me to even watch in the last year, get to know you, but also watch you. And we've had some really phenomenal conversations, especially when we saw each other in person. So, Jayna, I want you to just take it away and introduce yourself. I already shared a little bit, but I want you to share, who's Jayna Swan?
Oh my goodness, that's such a big question these days, isn't it? When we
I know.
become who we are, we grow into ourselves. I think I've been learning a lot about who I truly am recently, and I think it drills down to just someone who loves to create. And I like to learn lessons in life and then create things so that other people can learn from them. So, I mean, a creative is the best way to drill it down as to who I am. But really, I don't know, a weirdo, a goofball, that one person that everybody seems to love. I don't know.
I love that. I love that because there's actually a question. That's actually a question that my mentor has been asking me a lot. He's like, who are you? And he's like, Lizzie, we think that we know who we are, but he's like, every single time I ask you who you are, you stumble. And I'm like, oh crap, you're right. And the reason for that is a big reason is because I've been in this self-discovery for the last, 7, 8 months, went through divorce last year after 10 years of being married. And it really felt like I was only then getting to learn a whole new, brand new version of myself. And so a lot of it was shedding a lot of the old me, but also learning about who I was in the old me so that I can become the new me. So that discovery part. And it's a beautiful, delicate, and crazy place to be, if that even makes any sense.
Oh, it totally does. Because, I went down a similar journey, a very different experience, but the fact of what I feel like you're going through is you're just unlearning what other people told you you had to be. So
That's
you're starting to find yourself through unlearning, right? It's like peeling off those layers of like, oh, that came from that teacher in middle school, and that came from my mom or my dad or some, because people are always putting stuff on us. And so I feel like that's an experience I went through as well. It's not like I certainly haven't known who I am my whole life. So if you had asked me that question forever ago, I probably would have stumbled across it. It's only been the last year or two that I've really found the clarity of like, oh, this is me. And I'm okay with it. And if you're not okay with it, cool. You're just not for me. Let me go find the humans that like me for me. And
Mhm.
it's such an amazing process. I'm happy to be watching you go through it because I'm watching you bloom and seeing you grow into this person that you are you now. And it's just such a great journey. Everybody's got to go through it. It's not easy. It's painful, but the other side's
Yeah,
so
don't you think even as humans, because life changes so much anyway, that we should always be in some sort of self-discovery
oh yeah.
anyway? Because it's almost like an infinite thing, because
Yeah.
we're always changing. People around us are changing. Our careers may change, or maybe we have kids. So I feel there's all these different stages, and you discover so much in each stage if you are aware of it, if you're conscious of it. But I'm curious for you, like back us up a little bit and tell us a little bit more about your journey to then in the last couple years really getting to know you. You can
Oh
start
yeah.
wherever you want to start.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we go far enough back, when I first started in like career and working, I started working at 15 in a Chinese restaurant, and I was serving tables, and I loved working in restaurants. Did it for 7 years, a lot of different things, until I thought my path was to become a professional dancer. And I was like, all right, this is it.
Wow.
I'm gonna be a background dancer. It's like I was a championship dancer in high school and college. And I went on to be a professional dancer until life hit me. Sometimes like things just happen out of our control. And I started to develop some cysts on my vulva. And these cysts just kept reoccurring. And I kept having surgery after surgery and then bed rest. And all of these things led me down these paths that when I'm laying in bed for months on end, watching life just pass me by, I started to recognize cause and effect. I started to see, like, oh, Johnny does this and gets that result. Sarah does this and gets that result. And I was like, oh, interesting. Well, what result do I want? And it was that moment of like, I just pause. Like, when do we get life to stop enough to think? And so
Mhm.
I wrote down all the things I wanted to become in a journal I actually have right below me. I keep it because the fact is, I am all of those things today. This was
Mhm.
10 years ago. And in that journey, I started to recognize I'm not going to get where I want to go if I work for somebody else. And it was that aha light bulb of like, okay, so I need to do it for me. And that started the entrepreneurial journey. And I started a cleaning business because it was down to like, how do I meet people who are wealthy and knowledgeable, intelligent, well connected? And like, I want to be around them to learn from them. I had nothing to offer at 19 years old. And so I was like, well, they don't want to scrub their toilets and floors. And so I did. And so I like humbled myself, and I'd be scrubbing the floors and telling you beautiful multi-million dollar mansions. I'm scrubbing their floors, and I just look up and be like, what books are you reading right now? Who are you listening to? What are you learning? And I would go and get those books and then come back the next week, and I'd start to ask them about chapters and things, and we'd discuss the books. And so it was, I have a couple that were lent to me by people and things of that nature. So knowledge became key. And in that part of my life, I was cleaning between 10 to 16-hour days, 6, 7 days a week sometimes. And I was constantly educating myself. So I was constantly listening to books and lectures and seminars. And like, you can get college courses for free online. You won't get the credit, but you get the
Yeah.
knowledge. And
Yeah.
I just kept learning. And that led me to running into the man who I've been with now. We're coming up on 9 years together.
Wow.
And so I met him through offering to clean his office, and one thing led to the next. And I cleaned a couple properties for him. We got to know each other, and he has since supported me in chasing my dreams and building things. So I started in as I wanted to like coach people. I was experiencing some horrific stuff in life and learning to overcome it. And I was like, okay, I want to help other people. And at the time, my focus was health and fitness. And so I was really big into like, okay, working out and eating right. And I wrote a cookbook, and I wrote, a couple other books on health and self-published them all. So that kind of started me down the path of like self-development, food, because I was trying to figure out what was causing my cysts. And I
Mm.
had gone through 10 years and 7 different cysts. They just kept coming back and coming back. I thought, all right, something
Wow.
I'm eating. It has to be something I'm rubbing on my skin. It has to be, and I chased every rabbit hole. And it wasn't till 2021, which leads me to what I'm doing today. And so 2021, I walked in the door I stepped away from my cleaning, and I walked in to learn about emotional health and mental health, right? I started to learn what we call neuro linguistic programming, also known as NLP. Essentially, it's just mindset, right? And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
just went in, and I was not thinking much of it. I actually had a surgery 3 days before I walked into this, and I was just like, my life's going to be like this forever. And I walked out of a breakthrough session there, and I have not ever had a cyst reoccur again. And that's because in that session, I was given the most amazing opportunity to finally release all of the emotional baggage around sexual trauma I had experienced. And so being able to let go of that shame, that guilt, that
Mhm.
unworthiness that you carry that you don't recognize is impacting every part of your life. I finally just like said, I'm done. I'm gonna let it all go. I like cleansed myself energetically and mentally, emotionally of that. And I've now been on a path of helping other people do the same since, because I'm like, literally my life changed in an instant, everything. And so it was a long journey coming from scrubbing floors and serving people Chinese food to what I do now, which is really truly helping people just get to that next level, because we all get stuck, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's always something else to work on in life. And
Mhm.
so I just help people get stuck with the power of their own mind. And
No, and it's so amazing because I've sat in a teaching moment that you did at the mastermind that we were at last fall, and that was so powerful. And that's something that I'm obviously not trained in that, but I'm very aware of it. And there's certain parts of it that I'm aware of it, like organs that are connected to certain emotions and stuff like that. But it's not enough to know, hey, anger lives in the liver. Like you need to figure out like why are you angry. The next step after that is, well, how do you heal from that? Like how do you actually like move forward from the knowing, and I've had people that ended up in the hospital because they had pancreatitis, and it's like, okay, there's so much more going on than just the pancreas. Like we need to figure out what is actually going on there. I actually had someone tell me that we were talking about this exact thing, and they said that he said that his sister had
Mhm.
cancer, and
Yeah.
she had a lot of resentment and anger and bitterness
Mhm.
and unforgiveness towards her mom.
Yep.
And he said that it wasn't until she was going through cancer treatment and everything, but it wasn't until she actually forgave her mom that the cancer then disappeared. And it was like, whoa, like it's so incredibly powerful. And the more and more I learn about it,
Mhm.
I can now feel when my body's like, you need to let that shit go. Like,
Mhm.
get it out, let it go, and move on. And
Yeah.
so it's really amazing. I'm curious, like, I know that there's a method, and we're going to talk about the method that you teach now, because I
Mhm.
really want to dive into that. But what do you think was the biggest shift for you just a couple years ago that then led you in to the now?
Yeah, I honestly have been learning this stuff for over a decade. I just didn't know what I was learning.
Hmm.
Have you ever learned something and
Yeah.
then I always say when we discover something, we're either opening a loop, it's brand new information we've never heard before, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. Or it's
Hmm.
closing a loop. It's like, oh, I have a comprehensive knowledge of this. Like, okay.
Hmm.
Going to this event, which was an invite from a friend, was that, oh my gosh, I have all this knowledge. And in that moment, I realized I have been on this path for a very long time. But
Yeah.
when we're in the day to day, when we're every single day, it's like we don't recognize that getting up and doing that gratitude journal in the morning, that short little meditation, like those things compound. And what
Yeah.
seems like small things. So, as much as I want to give you like a specific moment, there were so many little moments
Yeah.
along the way that that's what makes the decision to grow into this. So, there isn't a big moment. I
Yeah.
mean, there were a couple. I had I guess if I'm really reflecting on it now, there was death of a friend who was a huge thing for me. And it was just a moment. I was post surgeries. I was basically laying in bed all day by myself and was talking to this friend about moving in with his fiance and another person I was seeing at the time. And we were all just kind of lived together and all of this. And um, unfortunately, he died in a car accident shortly after, and he was in ICU for a while, but this was like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
And he was really close. And so while he was in ICU, I happened to be in his house and noticed a little bottle of a product on a counter that someone had tried to get me into an MLM and sell. And so I was like, oh, maybe this is that sign, that synchronicity sign. So I started going to these network marketing, meetings and stuff. And that for me was a big shift in my life. So I guess that was a big pivotal moment. I wouldn't have otherwise. And
Yeah.
those are the rooms where I started to like, oh, I like speaking in front of people. I like telling my story. Oh, I'm actually good at this. Like,
Yeah. And I think that sometimes we don't know that those are the actual moments at that point in time, but just having a conversation, it can trigger certain memories where we're like, oh yeah, that was actually a big moment. And that's really a big piece of being aware and intuitive to those things. So anyway, guys, we have to go to our first break here. So we're going to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to continue to dive into this because we have a lot to go over and talk about. So guys, don't go anywhere. I'm your host, Lizzie Ens on the I'm Not Fine show on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to lizzie@undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, I am stoked to go into this next section here with Jayna. But before we do that, Jayna, I like early on for my listeners and your audience as well to understand where they can reach you. So where can people reach you now?
Yeah, the best place to reach me as I'm integrating myself back into social media is to go. I will be on Instagram and YouTube, and if you just look for miss.mindsetmentor, that's where you can find me. So at miss.mindsetmentor, as well as a brand new app that I'm launching, and you're welcome to join and be a part of that, which is exciting. Is the Her Embodiment app?
Yeah, and you have a little special gift for the listeners of this, and we will make sure to put that in the show notes as well. What is that gift to them?
Yeah, there will be a code in the show notes that you can get 3 months free. And so I really, truly, it's the launch of the app, and I want to make sure that it's what you guys are looking for and what's going to actually help. So getting more people in there using it, getting feedback is what I'm looking for. So to gift you 3 months to be able to
Oh
use
my
this,
gosh.
and movement, meditation, mindfulness, just it's everything to help you emotionally regulate yourself in a healthy way.
Well, thank you for doing that. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And guys, if you're not going to take advantage of that, like you're missing out. Like it really is one of those things where if you are someone that you feel like you emotionally don't know how to regulate, because sometimes we don't know how. Like we're just like, well, I have all these emotions, but like, what do I even do with them? Like I have a mentor and I ask him sometimes, I'm like, well, what am I actually supposed to do with that? Like I'll literally ask him that because I'm like, I don't know. Like I have all of this, but what do I do with it? And so sometimes we need that professional person in our life that understands those steps a little bit more and says, okay, well, here are some options. Here's the direction that you can go. But wouldn't you say though, I don't want to teach for you, but wouldn't you say though, like a lot of it is self-discovery too, is like,
Mhm.
like what is for you?
100%. I always say that everything that I do in all the areas of life is I'm here to give you a buffet. I'm here to offer you a ton of things to choose from. It's your choice what you pick up and put on your plate and what you don't. And not to say that everything I ever talk about is for everyone, as it's
Mhm.
not. You know, sometimes I have a specific person in mind, and maybe an episode of something is for them. And I'm okay if nobody else resonates. Like, as the idea is, you're right. I mean, it's some of the things I recommend people, it's the most simple thing. But
Mhm.
when you are in a state of dysregulation where your emotions are all over, you're angry, you're sad, you're fearful, you can't think straight. So, how
Mm-mm.
are you going to be able to think of the most simple journal prompt? But that will flip the script.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to tell yourself, I just need to put on that one playlist and dance around for a little bit. But if I encourage you, or if you just have enough wherewithal to open an app that can say, hey, here's a little 5-minute move around and dance with me kind of thing, and you
Yeah.
find yourself going from being frustrated and angry to being like, I actually feel good right now. It's like, okay, yeah, that's all you need is a little mood booster sometimes.
I think sometimes it's also just knowing that it's okay.
Hmm.
Like, because, for where I'm from, like, we were not allowed to be angry. Like, if we got angry and upset about things, like, I remember getting spanked for being angry, like having like a burst of anger, and I like get spanked because that was like a bad thing. And so for me, even after like, 15 years or more of having left the community, I had to come to realization that that's actually a normal emotion.
Yeah.
You just have to know what to do with it.
It's super common for women to not feel anger. Oh, not that they don't feel it. They don't, it's like they don't allow themselves to
Expose it or let
express
it
the
out.
full. Yep.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what happens is they say, "Oh, I'm not angry. I don't get angry." It's like, "No, you don't. You go right to rage." It's like, of course you don't. You go right to rage. It's like, because anger is okay. We're allowed to do that. And so my whole point is just to teach people how, I want you to get angry. You're allowed to. It's okay,
Mhm.
you know? But after the first 90 seconds, it's not brain chemistry anymore. It's your choice. You're choosing to be angry. And so I
Wow.
also love to let people know that, like, the things I'm putting out are so that you can choose when you're ready to let the anger out, so that you're not snapping on your husband or your child or your coworker, where you can notice the anger in that moment and go, nope, it's okay. I got to go do my work tonight. And then tonight you get home, you pull out an app and you put on a video where I rage with you, and you scream in the pillow and you punch the bed and you just get the anger out and you feel good and you move on. And it's like, cool. And no one should ever think you're not going to feel angry. It's just,
Yeah.
do you have the tools to actually let it out? Because the emotions are meant to be felt. They're actually easier when you just feel them. If you just let yourself ugly cry for 90 seconds or just yell and scream,
Yeah.
like, then you're like, oh, I'm good.
Well, yeah, because think about it. When we cry and we
Hmm.
actually allow ourselves to cry and not hold back, 90 seconds later, we're like, oh, I actually like feel better. You go to talk to a friend and they allow you to cry and it's a safe space. You feel better after just having cried, because those are emotions that you're hanging on to. It's like, so for me, when I cry now, it's like, okay, I'm actually cleansing and relieving my body of whatever emotions that I was holding on to.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to cry. Like, I literally had to learn how to cry. I was like, I don't know. I'm not gonna
It's a
let you
learned
see me
skill,
cry.
It's so true, because emotions are just energy in motion. And the problem is we feel the energy and we don't let it continue the motion. We stop it, we push it down, we like stuff it in there, and we're like, "Oh, I'll just deal with it later." And we never go back. And so it's like piling laundry. It's like, have you ever been to a depressed person's house or a friend who's just really struggling? And it's like, it's either the dishes in the sink are just overwhelming and they're just on to moving to paper plates, or they have no pieces of clothing left because it's all dirty. It's the same thing with emotion. If you don't handle the anger, sadness, and fear when it comes up, it becomes this overwhelming pile that when you go to put that one last dish on, that's the dish that breaks the camel's back. And that's where you finally just crumble and you have a meltdown and everything goes haywire. It's like, if we would just, I describe clients who work with me as like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to help you clean all your dishes. I'm going to help you do all your laundry so everything's spick and span and perfect. I'm not saying you're never going to feel the emotion. When you get angry, sad, or fearful, it's like having that dirty piece of clothing. I know what to do with it. I'm just going to do my laundry. I'm going to do the work that I've learned and use the skills so that now we can maintain it. So it never
Yeah.
becomes overwhelming. And that's how we keep ourselves out of being reactive and like doing
Mm-hmm.
things and saying things and snapping at someone and later on going, "Ah, I really shouldn't have said that."
Yeah.
You know?
What are your thoughts on, because I had this conversation with someone just this past week, because there's a relationship with this specific friend and another person, and I was like, you can't even, you can't react because there's too much emotional connection there
Mhm.
in terms of what happened in the past, and everything that this person would do with that relationship is out of reaction. So I told this friend, I was like, listen, I'm happy to step in and be the sounding board for you
Mhm.
if that protects you. But because you're not in an emotional state to even have this conversation with this person, I'm really curious, like, what your thought process is on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have two people who are in an emotional state, nobody's going to be in a logical state
Yeah.
because when we're in our emotions, we're not in our mind. We're not actually thinking properly. And so it's really hard to be able to have any sort of progress when two people are in a reactive emotional state. So you're totally right. But at the same time, it's that you have to step back and they have to recognize what's the trigger,
Hmm.
right? And then you can figure out, okay, that knowing the trigger is going to help you recognize where the work needs to be done. Because kind of like if you get a cut on your arm, if you press that cut right after you get cut, it's going to hurt really bad. And
Yeah.
then if you continue to neglect it, it's going to, maybe get gangrene and like go bad. It's just going to get worse and worse and more painful, more triggered, more reactive. We put time and effort into eating right and sleeping and putting the ointments on it and doing the things to heal ourselves. Then over time, it becomes less and less painful. There is a time where it's kind of scarring over, but it's still kind of tender. And
Yeah.
that might be you'll recognize, oh, I used to get really triggered over this. I'm still kind of bothered by it, but I'm not as reactive. That's you
Yeah.
noticing the healing happening. And then there becomes a day, someday at some point where someone does something and you go, "Oh, old me used to freak out over that." And you like internally high five yourself and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so funny because with the exact same person, I was like, one day you're gonna just be like, that's just a bleep in my past, where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, it doesn't even faze me anymore. It was such a big deal at this point in time. It's kind of like if you break up with someone
Yeah.
and it hurts like heck.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's raw and it's real and it's terrible. And you're like, I don't know if I'll ever find anybody. And it's all just so bad. And then 6 months, year, 2 years, it depends on the person down the road. You're like, what was I thinking? Like that.
Yeah.
But in the moment in time, it's painful.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You know what's happening there? Is that someone's stuck in what we call the problem box. Is that they're stuck in this problem box where they can't see anything outside that box. And so we as friends get to come in and offer opportunities to like, reframe someone or give them a new perspective. And what we're doing is poking holes in the problem box so that they can recognize they're surrounded by resources. There are
Yeah.
answers and solutions everywhere around them, but because you can't see past your baggage, you can't see past that box that you're stuck in. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you have a good friend, like I know you are, and to this friend, you're going to be like, let me poke some holes in here. Let me like give you some new perspectives. And it's like, well, because you can see it. You can't see it when you're in the forest. So
Mhm.
same thing is when you're in the problem box, you have to have trusted people, good friends, coaches and mentors that are in your corner so that they can be like, you know what, here's a blind spot. This is something you're not seeing.
Yeah.
And then you just got to trust. And that's the surrendering process, which is the biggest conversation for everyone, right? Is we
Yep.
all want to control, but we have to surrender.
Yeah, the reality is the more over controlled we are, the more insecure we are because we don't have the confidence. And so I literally just had that conversation with someone this week. I said, "Look, over controlling everything is not actually trusting the process, trusting yourself, trusting the journey. So everything has to have its box, everything has to be overly controlled. I'm guilty of that. I know people that are far more controlled with their life than I am, but I also recognize the fact that from the structured background that I come from, control was a big piece of it. But also I think that over controlling things is us, in a way, we're trying to protect ourselves from not getting hurt.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get hurt, so we're over controlling things, but in reality we're actually hurting ourselves more, because that's not life either. Like, we're not actually fully living life if we're over controlling everything.
Yeah.
So
It comes from
anyway,
fear. It
yeah,
does.
fear.
It comes
Yeah,
from fear.
yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Fear of losing control. But we have to go to our next break here. But when we come back, I want to go into your philosophy, the 3 M's. I really want to dive into that and let you take the floor on that piece, because I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about that. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I'm Lizzie Ens, your host on the I'm Not Fine show on the Inspired Choices Network.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away, so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Lizzie at undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are going to continue on with this. And Jayna, one question: what is the name of the app that you are launching, or have you launched it already?
It's in beta right now. So we're working on getting that launched in the app stores. It's called Her. So Her.
Oh, that's so easy.
Her embodiment. And Her stands for healthy emotional regulation. But that's just a mouthful. So we call it Her embodiment, because the idea is for you to embody your version of her. Because healthy emotional regulation is going to be different for you and me and each one of us. So that's the whole premise, is just using movement, meditation, and mindfulness to be able to embody healthy emotional regulation. That way you can do what you want in your life and love on your loved ones and just,
I love that. And then is there a specific code that they use when they go in to the app for the discount?
Yeah, if you type in all caps HER and then POD for pod, and then the letter or number 2. So HERPOD 2.
Awesome.
That'll get you those 3 months, and you can pop around, see what it's like, try out some of those meditations. We've got a couple of really good guided meditations in there, and some good journal prompts as well, some affirmations. There's all sorts of goodies in there.
Yeah.
It's basically anything I've used over the last decade to find my own ability to keep myself calm, cool, and collected. And I just kind of threw it all in there. I was like, let me just give you guys everything. So it's everything I use.
I have to say, when I meet you in person, like when we see each other in person, you are literally one of the calmest, most collected people. Like, not much stirs you up.
It takes a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to go into your philosophy, the 3 M's. Tell us about that.
Yeah, these are great. It is movement, meditation and mindfulness. And the idea is that as we were talking about emotions, I work on two things. One is I work on the mind and I help people with their communication so they can improve that connection that they have with other people around them. A lot of that is thinking skills, right?
Mhm.
Then we have the heart, and that's our emotions. And this is everything so that you can help better connect with yourself and others. And so I find that all of it is truly coming together. And so the movement, meditation, and mindfulness is how we find that emotional regulation. Because those emotions are just energy that's stuck in the body. So movement is going to help us move those out. Movement, sometimes it's just soft and gentle, just like moving in your body, just being present. Other times it's movement like, I don't want to go for a run. It's like, okay, I'll just put on a dance cardio thing with Jayna and just like beep bop around the house for a little bit, right? And get some cardio in. Or it's, maybe it's not a movement day and you're like, there's something I'm struggling with. I need a journal prompt to like get me through it. And so maybe you need a guided meditation. I have someone who's feeling really lonely. So I went and created a loneliness mind meditation for her, and it's in the app so that I know a lot of people struggle with these things. And so it's sometimes we just need to listen to something that's going to get us right. Sometimes it's getting out the journal and really just allowing yourselves 20 or 30 minutes to get in there and pick apart the pieces. Because my journal prompts are to help you dream. A lot of times it's, one of my favorites, I do it every single morning after I gratitude journal, is I am worthy of, and I fill in the blank. And like, I do 10 of them. Like, I am worthy of everything from like a hot cup of coffee to a roof over my head to great friends who love me to anything. Like, if I'm trying to achieve something great, like I'm worthy of being on Oprah. I'm worthy of having a book that's a bestseller. And like getting to that point where you can bring yourself to write those things. And then after I write it, I read them out loud. And that process of first writing it and then reading it and hearing your own voice say it, claiming it in this world is so powerful.
Yeah. Speaking of
Yeah.
claiming, I believe and I know that we can claim so many things that are not supposed to be ours.
Mhm.
And then also the good. So you just talked about the positive part of claiming things. But one of the things that I discovered a few years ago, and I've been teaching this to my clients too, is when, let's just say, for example, you get diagnosed with hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's or some kind of autoimmune, whatever the disease, quote unquote, is, if you continuously say, I have it, I have, that's actually you claiming the disease. And so a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to claim that anymore. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, I have Hashimoto's. Oh, I have hypothyroidism. It doesn't mean that it's not in some way, shape, or form still present in the body, but like, I'm not claiming it. And so when I started releasing that and I said, I don't want to claim that anymore, my body actually started to shift.
Yeah.
Because I was not attached to that anymore. And that's a really, really hard thing to understand and then also do, because a lot of times there is that emotional connection to it where we're finally like, oh, there is something wrong with me.
Mhm.
Oh, I finally can put a label on it, but it puts you in a box. It puts you in a label. And when that becomes our identity, we can't heal, because
Yeah.
now it's our identity.
Yep.
And I wanted to touch a little bit on the journaling part too, because I know this about myself. Like, I'm not someone that's like, hey, I'm like going to journal every single day. I don't get excited about it. It's not my thing, because I don't know why. It's not something that works well for me. However, in the last week, I had a session with my mentor, and I was, talking about something about journaling and stuff. And we were talking about the fact that, I went through a divorce, and I'm like, I'm single, but I don't even want to date. Like, it's not something that I'm pursuing, because I'm in this form of like getting to know me.
Mhm.
Right. And so I told him, I was like, but sometimes it's lonely. And he goes, Lizzie, I don't think it's lonely. What if you switch that to self-discovery? And
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, that's it. That is 100% it, because I'm like, I'm not actually lonely,
Yeah.
but it's this space of like, but what is it? Like, because I'm getting to know parts of me that I've never gotten to know before. And so that actually excited me to journal. So now I'm like, okay, I can actually sit down and write, because I switched it from like, I'm just writing things down and brain dumping to what am I actually discovering about myself? And that is the power of shifting the words.
Yeah. Labels are everything. Words are just labels. And
Mhm.
if you label it as loneliness, your unconscious mind or subconscious mind hears that and goes, oh, she's lonely. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's find everything around her that's going to show her that she's lonely.
Yeah.
And you're going to notice all of that. And it's like, same thing with identity and claiming stuff. I'm 100% on board with the idea of not saying, like, be really careful with what comes after I am,
Mhm.
because your unconscious mind hears all of it. And so if it is simple as, if I was to have an experience where I get upset and I say, Lizzie made me angry. Okay, your subconscious mind hears that and goes, oh, Lizzie has all the control over Jayna's emotions. Got it. Check. And so it's like, cool. It's like I just delegated my emotional state to whatever Lizzie tells me is true. It's like, no, it's like, cool. How did I choose to get angry at what Lizzie did? Oh,
Yeah.
big
Mhm.
choice, right? Big thing.
Mhm.
Change in words. Just like people who say, I want this and I want that. And want is a disconnected state. So it means that you don't have it.
Mhm.
And it's like, instead of saying I want something, say, like, I am becoming, or I am someone who will have that, right? These words are super, super particular. A lot of people like to say, I need to do this.
Yeah.
I must do this, right? It's like, okay, we can make it better. I get to do this. I
Oh my
choose to do
gosh.
this, right?
I feel like we're like in sync, because I was literally been talking that nonstop to my clients the last couple of weeks. I'm like, you don't have to, you don't need to, you get to. And when
Uh-huh.
you switch it to, I get to heal my body, I get to learn
Yes.
how to listen to my body, I get to feed my body good food and move it. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
gosh, that's amazing.
I was like, I get the opportunity to learn so much about the body and mind. And that happened because of my cysts. So
Mm-hmm.
my cysts, while most people would think, oh, it's probably the worst thing that ever happened to you. No, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I am 100% like that. I would never change it. I would go back and live it over 10 times, even though I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, because it was extremely painful. But that pain is what got me to get up and change.
Yep.
And it's kind of like they say, like, there's the man on the rocking chair on his porch, just rocking back and forth. And there's the dog yelping. The person comes up and they're like, what's wrong with the dog? He's just yelping, yelping. And they're like, oh, he'll be fine. It's like, no, is he okay? It's like, yeah, it's all right. He's laying on a nail. He's like, why doesn't he get up and move? It's not painful enough yet. It's
Oh
the
my
same thing in
God.
life,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like, we can have something that irritates us enough to complain to everyone around us,
Mhm.
to
Yep.
go on the internet, to make videos, to do all of these different things. But is it enough to get up and actually change something? That's
Yeah.
like that choice. So it's huge. Our words really powerful. Journaling, I love that reframe you gave yourself, because journaling has been my key to my growth. And when I don't journal, I find I stagnate, and it's because it gives me such a reflective power.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, like when you get angry, you just want to text that person and be like, "Rah," and leave them the paragraph, right? And then block them because you want to have the upper hand, right? No, write it in a journal, write it on a piece of paper, come back to it a day later and read it. I guarantee that you will be in a state where you're going to be like, that's not me. I didn't write this. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, because the way you think when you're calm is very different than the way you think when you have all these emotions flooding your system.
Mhm.
So it's like, write it down, read it a day later, and then burn it, because that's not really what you want to say to the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Instead, say, thank you for the lesson, because I got to obviously learn something from this.
It was a reaction because you were in a state of emotion that triggered a certain kind of emotion that made you angry, and then you reacted to it. And that's why, like, when something upsets me or I get angry about something, I'm like, all right, like, don't make any decisions right now. Like, let it be for now. Come back to it 24 hours later if you need to, if it takes that long. Because the better you get at it, the less time it takes to then come back to it and be like, oh, okay, like we can all say sorry more or be forgiving more easy when we understand what is actually happening.
And
So,
sometimes it's about just sitting with it,
mhm,
right? Sometimes we just have to sit with it because we think we know what it's trying to tell us, but we're so consumed with everything outside of us. Like we just pause
yeah.
15-20 minutes, sit in it, really explore. And I would encourage not asking the question why, because it's not going to give you any good answers. That you could
Mhm.
enjoy a question like, what would happen if? What would happen if I did
Mhm.
this? Or what would happen if I did that? Or what would happen if this happened? And encourage yourself to spiral up instead of spiraling down, because a lot of people often take what would happen if and they go worst case scenarios. I'd
Yeah.
encourage you to do best case scenarios. And
Yeah.
what would happen if I woke up tomorrow and I got that job that I had applied for I really wanted? Like, what would happen if I said yes to that date and went out with him and that happened to be the man of my dreams? Like, who knows?
Yep. Taking chances. I
Yeah.
think taking chances like that is part of life. So guys, we got to go to our last break here. But we're going to come back and finish this show out strong with Jayna. I want you to give some actionable steps that, if it's 2, 3, 5 things that you know that are pretty basic and simple things that people can get started with. I want you to share that because I think, you have sometimes the simplest things that people can start out with. And I like simple. I like simple but effective. So, guys, we're going to be right back after the break. I'm Lizzie Ens, your host on the I'm Not Fine show on the Inspired Choices Network. We'll be right back.
We often get used to just feeling fine instead of reaching to feel excellent or even good. Wellness is about feeling good, and that is a journey of continually coming back to what is nourishing and healing for us. Your body is functional and ever-changing, like a pendulum swinging. We must learn how to move with our bodies. Tuning into I'm Not Fine with functional nutrition coach Lizzie Ens will provide you with simple but effective tools that you can use right away, so you can go from feeling just fine to feeling amazing. Listen for I'm Not Fine on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is I'm Not Fine with Lizzie Ens. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Lizzie at undietyourself.live. Now, back to the program.
All right, you guys, I'm so excited for this part because this is the part that I want you guys to get. Because a lot of times it's actually not as complicated as we think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jayna, I want you to just kind of walk us through like beginner level. What would someone do?
Yeah.
What should
I'm
someone do?
I'm going to give you 3 of the biggest things that have helped me, each of them in one of the M areas. So, the first thing that you can take an action step on in the movement section is in the morning, pick 2 songs to move your body to. The first one, I would encourage something slower. You're just waking up, something just moving your body, just kind of being present, feeling yourself. The second song, pick a hype song, something you can't keep yourself from dancing, something you have to just get up and like start your day and it just like gets you in a good mood, right? Okay. So that's the first action step, is just start playing those 2 songs in the morning. It's less than 5 minutes of your day and I guarantee it will make it a better day.
Mm-hmm.
The second one would be in our meditation section. Instead of meditating, because some people are new to it and they get a little intimidated, I do encourage journaling. We talked about how important that is. So here's the one journal question that changed my life was truly asking myself, if money didn't matter, what would I do with my life? So if I didn't have to make money, bills, none of it mattered, money wasn't a thing anymore, what would I get up every day and like want to do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going to pull my heart? What's the thing I'm going to choose to do? And if you can explore that, then you can really find ways to integrate that into your life and find more peace and more joy and happiness throughout the day, right?
Great. I
And
agree.
the third one is the mindfulness. And now this is something I like to do to check in with myself. And what it is I keep a schedule, a planner, I have Google, and we always have the calendar apps. So I, at the end of my day, will go back through looking at what I did throughout the day, and I'll reflect. Did this fill my cup or did it empty my cup? And go to each,
Mhm.
every event. I'll tell you, I'm going to reflect back and go, this podcast freaking filled my cup. I love it. I love doing this. And so that's great. But if I get off a call with somebody, whether it's like an intro call or a client call or something, and it emptied my cup, and I note that down, I'm less likely to do that again. So in
Yeah.
the future, if that person's like, hey, can you make time for a call? I'm going to be like, you know what? It's not a good time for me, because I know I have to protect my energy. This also allows you, when you're building your future schedule, maybe you do have something that empties your cup, but you got 3 more things that day that fill it. And so you're
Yeah.
like, I'm good,
Yeah.
so you can balance a little bit more. So those are 3
Yeah.
simple steps that can bring that mindfulness to you of like, is this actually something that fills my cup or empties my cup? And then just dance it out and ask yourself, what would you do if money didn't matter?
I love that so much. I never even thought about that in terms of like looking at the calendar, because I'm very, very much like delegating. Like if there's things that I'm like, don't like doing that, and there's no need for me to be doing that anymore, I will sure as heck delegate that out. Because if it's something, let's just say for business reference here, if it's something that still is a need for my business, but it's like I don't actually have to be the one doing it, and it also doesn't bring me any joy, I will delegate that out if at all possible. And the reason that I do that is because then it allows me to shine in the area that I want to be in. And so if I were to ask myself, like, if money wasn't, it wasn't in the picture, and it's like, I don't have to do this for money. I literally, when I think about what I do on a day-to-day basis now, I love what I do so much that I'd be like, yeah, I probably would still be doing the same thing
Yep.
because I love what I do. Now, I do many things. And if there's anything that I would encourage myself to look at is, what is it that you need to do less of so that you can do more of the things that you 1000% love and brings you the most passion. So, the other thing, as far as the journaling part goes, if you've never journaled, I think that the best thing to do is just think of a blank canvas and just say, it's blank. I bring nothing other than a blank canvas, and you just start painting your own picture. And I think that that's a beautiful thing to start as well. Is there's no rules around it. You can do and say whatever you want, and it's yours. And then you can get rid of it. Nobody else's business what's in there. But the songs, we have about 2 minutes left here. But the songs, I discovered that a few years ago. Nobody taught it to me. I just kind of discovered it. Like I would get up in the middle of the day, I would find a song that was already playing. I put my headphones on and I would just get up and start moving. And like my body would start moving in a way where I would be like, oh, geez, like where did that come from? And I realized that it's energy. Like it's energy that's like in my body, and I actually needed to get it out and move. And it's different. Like different songs will do different things.
Yeah. The tones of the different songs too. It's funny how often I talk to someone who claims to be depressed and I say, okay, what kind of music do you listen to? And it's all heartbreak country songs. And I'm like, oh, come on, let's throw some fun stuff in there. And I give them like links to some playlists I've created with like happy music. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really is powerful to listen to music that is actually energetically happy. Like if you broke up from a relationship and now all you listen to is breakup songs, you're gonna be depressed.
It's frequency. It's easy. It's low frequency and high frequency. Just pick something that's going to make you feel better.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's so incredibly powerful. But Jayna, this has been an absolute honor. I want to thank you so much for coming onto my show and giving your knowledge and expertise and your brain wisdom. Like it's just super powerful. Guys, I'm going to be back next week with another powerful episode. Jayna, thank you so much again. We will see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you for listening to the I'm Not Fine show. Lizzie Ens returns Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and 10 a.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, have the best week of your life by making choices that take you from feeling fine to feeling amazing.